One of my favorite things about having a YouTube channel is the comments and how people reach out through those comments and share their stories and their experiences and their wisdom. There's been some kind of heartbreaking, for me, stories that I've heard lately. And, a lot of these have come out of the almost naked winter survival thing that I did. And because I talked in there about people who are going through tough times, people who have been sharing some of their tough times. There's always this feeling that, I might have things rough. I might be, battling alcoholism or, facing cancer or whatever it is, the challenges before me. But that there's people that are, suffering way worse than we are. And so, do we even have a right to voice our pain? And I think in a way that's really healthy, to realize that no matter what we're suffering, there are probably people that are suffering things way more intense than we can even imagine. At the same time, I don't think any of us should belittle our or somebody else's pain, because pain, as we know, is very subjective. And when, if you're in a place where you're facing trauma, it means that, if you're having a tough time, it means that your emotional and mental resources have been maxed out at this moment in your life. And that you're being hit with stuff that is currently beyond your means to deal with it effectively. That is where I think we can start really having compassion for everybody that reaches out. And compassion, to me, is very different than pity. Looking at someone and pitying them, that puts them down below us. Compassion brings them to the same level as us and says, I see your pain, I've also felt pain, and I realize that I may face challenges ahead in my life where I can look to you now in the way that you're dealing with your pain, your trauma, and I can learn from you, and hopefully that will give me strength when I have to face my challenges. Today I'd specifically like to talk about the trauma that comes when we hit something in our life where we don't see a way out. Let's say I get cancer, tomorrow. I can probably see a way out of that. I see myself as young, as very healthy, and I can look forward and say, I've got a fight on my hands. If I can come out the other side of that alive, I can go on with my life. That's one kind of trauma we can face. There's another kind, and again, these are some of these heartbreaking stories I've been hearing, where people are hit with stuff where there isn't a cure, where the doctors aren't saying you're ever going to get better from this, where the rest of their life ahead of them, however long that is, looks like it's only going to go down. And my question is, how do we face that? How do we deal with that in front of us? It struck me, thinking about this the other day, that most of us, there's a good possibility that most of us will get to experience this through aging. As we come towards the end of our lives, most of us are going to face a decline in our physicality, in our mental abilities. And that's going to give us some powerful emotional challenges. Aging, in a way, is nice because it gives us many years to make that transition, usually. But some of us, we're going to get hit with that disease that has no cure. And I might be, 45 years old and looking at, that's it. I thought that I had the rest of my life to enjoy. I remember these times when I would be able to go out into the woods and have great adventures. And now it all looks downhill. For me, one way of dealing with these traumas, whether they're short-term and there's a way out, or they're these bigger ones that I'm talking about where we don't see ever an exit, is to realize that there are different gifts that we have. So, for instance, if I was in a car accident tomorrow and was paralyzed from the neck down, that could be a huge trauma for me because I'm very used to living in a very physical body that's very, very capable. And to never be able to, hike up the ridge path again, to never be able to run again or do gymnastics or do any of the things that I do with this body. After that accident, you could see how I could just crash. On the flip side, I love to write. Probably none of you know this. I love to write. I love to write stories. And I've written all kinds of novels, and most of them are just kind of sitting on my computer. And there's many more ideas for novels in my head. And all these stories, which I think are rich and valuable stories, they're probably never going to get written because I have this physical body. And in a way, this physical body distracts me from the writing because I could sit down for 3 hours and work on the novel, or I could go out and practice back handsprings. And the physical body to me is that movement is so fun and so passionate that, I've made the choice to pay more attention to the physical than to that creative writing. Paralyzed from the neck down, I would have to learn, through programs or whatever, how to type without my hands. But all those stories, they might become realities, where they never would have become realities if I hadn't had that accident. And so, I know this is easy to say when I'm sitting here healthy and without any trauma in me, but I, like anybody else, have faced some tough things in my life, some sad things, and I know that we do have a choice. When that trauma hits us, we have a choice to see it as something that crashes us, or we have the choice to see it as a gift that's going to help us to grow or evolve in some way that we would not have grown or evolved if that trauma wasn't there. And so, if you're facing something, that's at least one way that I've found to deal with things, is to see if you can find the gift that's emerging that wouldn't have been there if that trauma wouldn't have occurred. More importantly than what I have to offer, I would love in the comments below to hear from people who have faced especially things where they don't see an exit point, and to share with people how you are struggling, how you are finding your way through, or how you found your way through. because I think those are some of the darkest things we can face. And if you shared your wisdom and your stories with us, it would give all of us strength for the times that we surely will face in our futures when things look really bleak. And I would be so honored to have your stories down here and your wisdom shared. Thank you all very, very much for watching, and I'm very, very excited to see what people share in the comments below. Thanks much. We'll see you soon.